folks, I am Harris Sultan and you are watching History with Sultan. Guys, all the civilizations that came before us had one thing in common. They all looked up at the night sky, and after looking at those twinkling little stars, they all wondered and asked some basic questions, such as, who are we? Where did we come from? Why are we alive? And where did this earth, this moon, and all these stars come from? These are some of those basic questions that humans have been asking for the last 200,000 years. But in this long 200,000-year-old journey, only now we're beginning to understand the inner workings of the cosmos. However, today we're not going to look into our modern discoveries, but try to understand how our ancient counterparts tackle these complex questions. But before we go further, if you haven't subscribed this channel yet, then please do it and make sure you press the bell icon so you don't miss any of my new exciting videos. Ancient Egyptians. Since the Egyptian civilization lasted for a very long time, therefore their religion and their creation myths kept changing with time. According to most historians, the Egyptian civilization started in 3100 BCE, which is now called the Old Kingdom, and some 3000 years later it came to an end with the all-famous story of Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt. After this, Egypt kept going under the Romans till the 4th century. However, it was just a shadow of a great civilization it once was. As I said, these creation myths kept evolving during these 3500 years. However, according to most historians, the most widely accepted creation myth is called Gods of Ennead, which consisted of 9 major gods. We trace the origins of this creation myth back to the people of the ancient city of Heliopolis, which is found near modern-day Cairo. We find the most accurate descriptions of this story in the hieroglyphics found in the pyramids, and then in the records of future Greek historians. According to this creation myth, there was nothing in the beginning except for some chaotic waters, which is, according to some sources, also called Nun. And out of these chaotic waters came the sun god Ra, or Atum. Later Egyptians slightly modified the story and said a mound appeared from these waters which turned into the sun, and then eventually sun god Ra. Then we have the first battle of good versus evil, right versus wrong, order versus chaos. This god Ra created himself out of these waters, meaning there was no god before him. This god was neither male nor female. He never yawned, he never slept. Then it is said that one day Ra either spat or masturbated, and then his son Shu, the god of air, and his daughter Tefnut, a goddess of moisture, appeared. Then both of this brother and sister had sex, and out came the sky goddess Nut and the earth god Geb. This brother and sister were joined together, and when they separated, ladies and gentlemen, according to the ancient Egyptians, that's how we got our earth and heavens. To understand this myth a little more, let's look at this poem, which was, according to later Egyptians, was read by Ra himself. I am the eternal spirit. I am the sun that rose from the primeval waters. My soul is great. I am the creator of the word. I am the creator of the order wherein live. I was Ra in all his manifestations. I was the great one who came into being of himself. And it goes on, but you get the gist of it. This was just a creation story. However, the fun part begins later when we get into the lives of famous Egyptian deities like Osiris, Set, Isis, or Nephthys. All of these deities were children of Geb and Nut. Guys, if you're somewhat familiar with Islam and Quran, then you would have noticed some stark similarities between the Egyptian creation myth and that of the Islamic creation myth. Consider this Quranic verse, chapter 11, verse number 7. And he it is who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and his throne was upon the water. The only difference is, according to the Egyptian mythologies, their god Ra came out of these primeval waters, whereas in the Islamic myth, Allah always existed, and he had his throne above these primeval waters all along. Islamic mythology doesn't really explain the origin of Allah. However, both in Islamic and Egyptian mythology, the first thing in the universe was water. The second similarity is about the creation of the earth and the heavens. Consider this Quranic verse, chapter 21, verse number 30. Do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one unit of creation before we clove them asunder? When the Quran says, do not the unbelievers see, it is probably talking about those unbelievers who believed in the Egyptian creation myths. Because according to the Egyptian myth, earth and heavens were also joined together in the shape of Geb and Nut, and then the principal god Ra separated them. And here in the Quran, it is also saying that Allah separated the earth and the heavens just like Ra separated Geb and Nut. The Mesopotamian creation myth. Yes, I know Mesopotamians are even more ancient than the Egyptians, but the reason why I have included them after the Egyptians is that we don't have the concrete creation myths of the earliest Mesopotamians, such as the Sumerians, that existed from 5000 BCE to 2000 BCE. After the Sumerians came the Akkadians that existed from 2400 BCE to 2200 BCE. And just like the Sumerians, we don't have any solid record of their creation story as well. Yes, we do have some creation myths, such as the heavens and the earth were also separated, and as a result we got our earth and skies, but there is plenty of dispute on that amongst the historians, as there are no surviving records of them, such as the Egyptian hieroglyphs or Babylonians' clay tablets. Yes, we do have 7 clay tablets from the Babylonians that tell us in detail how everything started, which has now come to be known as Enuma Elish. Babylonians were the third major Mesopotamian civilization and came after the Sumerians and Akkadians. Babylonians were at their peak from 1950 BCE to 600 BCE, and out of all these Mesopotamian civilizations, only Babylonian creation myths survived the harshness of time. It is said that this story was written in the time of the famous Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar, around 1200 BCE. And this is the reason why I have included this story after the Egyptians. According to the Babylonian creation myth, in the beginning there was only salt and sweet water. Sweet water was called Apsu or Absu, while the salt water was called Tiamat. These were the first conscious deities. These two deities gave birth to the first gods of the Babylonians. The first offspring of Apsu and Tiamat were Lahmu and Lahamu. Lahmu and Lahamu, they became constellations in the sky. They gave birth to the gods of earth and heavens, called Anshar and Kishar. They gave birth to Anu, and he gave birth to Ea. Now comes the eventual victor of all of these gods of this entire myth, called Marduk, and he becomes the most favorite god of the Babylonians. Yes, I know you must be wondering, what the hell is this Lamu, Lahamu, Anshar, Kishar, etc. I'm really sorry about that, but just like the Egyptian myths, these stories get really interesting when we get into the lives and battles of these gods and goddesses. But to understand the creation myth of the Babylonians, this should be enough. So these were the creation myths of the two of the oldest civilizations. After these two civilizations, we get the Indians and the Chinese, but that is a story of another time. If you liked my video, then please subscribe to the channel. And if you would like me to continue making these videos, support me on PayPal or Patreon.